Top stories brought to you by Bond Financial Services. Your success, our passion. Belacra Mineral Water, the new generation mineral water, as well as MyJoyOnline.com. We're also live from the Multi TV studios here, also live on Joy 99.7 FM. They came, pledged, and signed the Peace Pact, dubbed the Kumasi Declaration. All the presidential candidates contesting next week's elections today entered into a covenant overseen by the Chief Justice to reject violence, impunity, and injustice before, during, and after the elections. But even at the signing ceremony, one of the presidential candidates is raising issues. He says some of his colleagues came at talking. We will shortly hear from some of the presidential candidates. But first, let's hear from former President Rawlings, who means no words in blaming the political leaders for the chaos that often characterize elections.
Ghanaians are alarmed by the exchange of extremely vitriolic and baselessly abusive language in our airwaves. Our politics is now characterized by how loud and abusive one can be, rather than the application of moderate, toned-down logic and common sense in debating the issues. The potential for a clash. What we have to do is to make sure that this clash, even if it's going to take place, does not end up in a manner that creates, conflict, antagonism, and whatever it is. Let us handle this clash. Yes. The clash. Yes. Thank you. Reduce the clash to the thumb. Thank you.
Commander-in-Chief President John Mahama pledged to ensure zero tolerance for violence, impunity, and injustice.
I have a dual responsibility. First, as President of the Republic, and secondly, as a candidate in these elections myself. I pledge to carry out this role to the best of my ability and in the national interest. Our government has worked to create an environment to have a peaceful and successful election. We have provided the resources that the Electoral Commission needs, all the resources it needs, to be able to conduct this election without any hitch. We provided the security services with resources and equipment to be able to carry out their mandate of creating a peaceful atmosphere devoid of intimidation for all our citizens to freely come out and exercise their franchise.
But MPP presidential candidate Nana Akufo-Addo used the opportunity to reiterate his challenge to the president to move beyond the rhetoric to actually ensure a fair application of the rule of law.
I believe the reason the atmosphere still seems clouded with anxiety and there are increasingly loud calls for peace is because the government has not tried to build any confidence measures to assure the citizens that the security agencies have a free hand to do their work in an impartial manner. The rapid apprehension and prosecution of members of the ruling party will be responsible for the recent violence against members of the NPP in the Sutifi South, a constituency represented in Parliament by a cabinet minister, will be one such measure. Another will be an immediate, impartial investigation into the disturbing contents of the now infamous Yabwating Jan tape, which the national organizer of the NDC has accepted as genuine, together with the immediate publication of the results of the inquiry. People do not feel that the security forces are party colorblind in performing their duties. This fuels rumors and generates anxiety. The president has a responsibility to move beyond the rhetoric of calling for peace and demonstrate a commitment to ensuring the state institutions discharge their duties professionally and with integrity.
So what's the president's response to Nana Addo's challenge? We'll hear from the president's team shortly. But let's first speak now to the national chairman of the NPP, Jacob Echebe-Lamptey, who is joining me on the line right now. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here on Top Story. Was this the appropriate platform for Nana Addo to challenge the president, raise issues, some say even attack the president, when indeed all he had to do was to sign a peace pact?
Well, you know, peace is not just words. Peace is not just the absence of conflict. Okay, peace, the absence of peace. So what is happening is that we're not working at peace. Yesterday, I had to pay 600 cedis for the treatment of a young man who was knifed in Agbogboshi on, I think, on Saturday night or something, when Sunday morning, when the area was invaded. Okay, in an instance which could be described as having something to do with politics. On Sunday, when I was going to Tamale, I had a call from Dadia Shoba, okay, about the thugs who were roaming on the streets and telling the people they would prevent them from voting. So these are not things that have happened before. These are things that are happening now. They are current. They cannot be stopped unless there is a real will from the government to stop it. And this is what we're calling for. We're calling that we go beyond just words about peace, that we actually do something to make the peace happen, that we actually do something to make sure that the police really are empowered to take some action.
Some may call you paranoid, that you are basically raising these false alarms when indeed there's none.
Well, you know, the thing about raising alarms, if you raise, even today's event was in a way of raising an alarm, because the event today would not have been held, if nobody believed that there was a potential for violence in the country about over and around the elections. You would not have got two former presidents, a sitting president.
But is it fair to lay that at the doorstep of the president as Nana Addo did today?
We're laying at the doorstep of the government, okay, the fact that it's all words and no action. That action has to happen. It cannot just be words. It cannot just be we come out and we say nice things and then we go away and we do awful things.
I struggle to appreciate the point, though. Just a quick point. I struggle to appreciate the point because the police are doing their job. The president can never interfere in the work of the police. They must be allowed to do their work.
Tell me what work the police have done about Agbogboshi. What have you heard about anybody being brought to book about the things? 4 persons were severely injured in Agbogboshi. What have you heard about the police doing anything in that Yosoba? Okay? Please, it's not we wish it to happen and therefore it is happening. It really has to be evidence of something going on. We are working with the police. We are supporting the police. We are trying to do everything we can to strengthen the police and to make sure that our people don't get into any problems with the police. Okay, but beyond that, we know some of the problems the police face, and that is why we're bringing these things up. They need to have some political will to be able to do some of the things that needs to be done. One of the things they hide behind is they turn around and say that this is electoral violence, and therefore they cannot take it to court. They can only prepare the docket, and then because it's electoral violence, the Attorney General has to take it to court. And that dockets have been prepared, but the Attorney General has not acted on those dockets. That is an act of government. That is an act of the executive. And we must bring these things to bear. We must say, if today's meeting is, which was a very long meeting, if it's have any effect at all, it must translate beyond mere words into some real action.
Let me hold you to that. Let me hold you right now.
We should not be frightened of action.
Let me hold you to that same principle, translating into real action. Your candidate signed the pact today. What, in real terms, is he going to do to make sure that the pact he signed today reflects among the rank and file, the ordinary guys who support him, who actually are the people who are most guilty of those instances of crime, violence, etc.?
bring any MPP person, okay, who perpetrates any criminal activity at all, and we will support the prosecution of that person. We have said that we are not going to initiate any violence at all, but we will say people can defend themselves, but we will not support anybody who goes and offers gratuitous violence, who goes out to try to destroy the peace and tranquility of the elections.
Okay.
We will not support anybody like that.
Okay, I want to say a big thank you to you, sir. That's Jacob Ejebe-Lamptey. He is the national chairman of the New Patriotic Party. Shortly, we'll be attempting to hear from the president's team about the NADO's challenge to him today. I'm sure you heard him say that the president should move beyond the rhetoric and indeed make sure that there's a fair application of the rule of law, regardless of your political background. And again, he lays the blame firmly at the doorstep of government. He says, for example, that the reason why there are all these calls for peace and the tension seem to be ratcheting up is because the government has failed to ensure that there's a fair application of the rule of law. Is that fair comment? And what is the president's response to that accusation that maybe he's been rhetorical when it comes to dealing with the issue of peace? Yes, they've signed a pact today, but will it mean anything on the ground for those followers who indeed are those who actually take up arms in support of these presidential candidates and actually perpetrate these violence? We'll be hearing from the president team shortly here on Top Story. I'm told that the Deputy Information Minister, Samuel Kudu Tablakwa, just joined us on the line. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here on Top Story. I'm sure you listened to the NADO today. His charge is that the president should move beyond the rhetoric and indeed make sure that this reflects on the ground. What's your response to that?
Yeah, quite clearly, Nana Akufo-Addo is living up to his reputation as the most dangerous candidate in this year's election. This was an opportunity for everybody to pledge for peace, not an occasion to put out a belligerent posture and show how violent and threaten mayhem. All the other presidential candidates gave account of themselves, a very good account of themselves, which showed their commitment to peace. It was a forum to pledge for peace. And here again, Nana Akufo-Addo lives up to his expectation.
But if you have real concerns in pledging for the peace and you think that that is going to hinder your commitment, you have to put it out there. Fair point?
It is not a fair point, because when Nana Akufo-Addo decides to suffer from selective amnesia, Ghanaians would not see him as a sincere, honest person. If you want to talk about tapes, Ghanaians know that the Yabua Tinjan tape is not the only tape that has come up for discussion.
But the police have decided to invite Cabo and bailed him, have not done anything about the Yabua Tinjan tape. That is his complaint.
That is not true, Evans. You are in the media and you should know better and not speak like Nana Akufo-Addo. You know that national security invited Yabua Tinjan.
I'm sorry, but the matter was reported subsequently to the CID, the same entity investigating the Cabo tape as well. We've not heard anything from the CID as far as that is concerned.
These are all security agencies. National Security investigated Yabua Tinjan. They presented a report. In any case, if Nana Akufo-Addo is making the point that anybody who has made statements which are violent, which threaten the peace, then Nana Akufo-Addo himself should have been the first person to be invited by the CID. I am also concerned that the CID has not invited Nana Akufo-Addo. Since he said all die be die, since he said etiwakra yechere bibi kakra, I am surprised that Nana Akufo-Addo has not been invited. If Nana Akufo-Addo is making the point that people should be invited, should be investigated, should be locked up, and that is where you show commitment to the peace process, then Nana Akufo-Addo, Ghanaians know, should not be freely campaigning all over the place and repeating all die be die and refusing to withdraw it and apologize for it.
Quick question to you, briefly, if you may. How will this translate, as far as your campaign is concerned, on the ground when it comes to maintaining the peace and getting the rank and file to follow suit?
We are deeply concerned. We have been discussing amongst ourselves after Nana Addo's posture this evening. It is clear that there are worrying days ahead. Nana Akufo-Addo clearly remains a threat to a peaceful election on December 7. The same tactics he used in the 2008 election, refusing to concede and sending his lawyers to court on a Sunday to attempt to prevent the Electoral Commissioner from declaring results. It is clear that if the NDC does not win this election massively one touch, there will be trouble for us. So we are going to work extra hard to secure a landslide victory. It is only then that we will be safe, because clearly Nana Akufo-Addo is not committed to the peace process. Okay,
thank you very much. That's the Deputy Information Minister, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa. But you want to stay with us on Newsnight. We'll be speaking to the organizers of today's event. I'm talking about IDEC. Have they achieved their aim? If you listen to the discussion we've just been having, well, it appears that we still have a long way to go. We'll be speaking to them about what their assessment is of what happened today and whether they've achieved all the objectives. Also, you want to stay with us on Joy News at 8 for the details on this particular story and all the angles indeed. My name is Evan Smith. The top story is brought to you by Bond Financial Services, your success, our passion, Belaka Mineral Water, as well as myjoyonline.com.